Tvam Purushotmato me. You are the immeasurable, the supreme to be realized. You are the ultimate resting place of the universe. You are the undying guardian of the eternal law. You are the primal person, I think. Good enough hand out if you want. Arjun says that the word Veditavyam. The word Veda comes from the stem Vid, and Vid means to know. Arjun is therefore telling God that, Lord, you are worth knowing about, and it is right to know about you. Arjun then calls the Supreme Soul Brahmakshar, the imperishable and the supreme. That which can never be destroyed is Akshar. Sharam Nayati iti Aksharam. And Paramakshar means the imperishable and the supreme. Arjun then calls the Supreme Soul the Param Nidanam of the universe. Nidan means something in which you can put something. Where has this word been put in the Supreme Soul? Arjun says that the Supreme Soul is the ultimate resting place of the universe. Arjun then says that the Supreme Soul is the undying guardian of Dharma, the eternal law. Arjun calls Shri Krishna the Primal Person, and when Arjun says such is his thinking, this whole description is worth understanding. First, Arjun calls the Supreme Soul Aksharam, imperishable. Aksharam, imperishable, is at the root of the description of the Nirgun Nirakar, the formless God without qualities. We will see this when it comes in the 12th chapter, when Bhakti devotion is described. How do devotees of the Nirgun Nirakar, the formless God without qualities, perform penances? They do it of the Aksharam, the imperishable form. In the 3rd verse of the 12th chapter of the Gita, Shri Krishna says, Yetva Aksharam Anityasham Avyaktam Paripasate, but those who worship the imperishable, the undefinable, the unmanifested. There the word Aksharam, imperishable, is used. But over here, when the word Aksharam, imperishable, is used, Arjun was looking at the form. This is the Sagun Zakar, the God with the form and qualities. Why then did Arjun use the word Aksharam, imperishable, to describe the Supreme Soul? One meaning of the word Aksharam is certainly a split of A, which means not, is a negative prefix, and Sharam, perishable, meaning Aksharam means imperishable or that which can never perish. Sharam narati iti Aksharam. It depends on how you split the word. That which is beyond things that perish is Aksharam, imperishable. That which is gone beyond perishing is Aksharam, imperishable. Again, this is a Nirgun Nirakar, the formless God without qualities. But if you split Aksharam in another way, then you get a very sweet definition for the Sagun Sakar, the God with the form and qualities. Until now we have split it into A and Sharam. Now we can split it into Aksha, meaning eyes, and Ram, meaning to play with. That where the eyes are played with is Aksharam. If we look at the Supreme Soul as the Nirgun Nirakar, the formless God without qualities, then the Supreme Soul becomes Aksharam, imperishable or that which can never perish. But if we see the Supreme Soul as a Sagun Sakar, the God with form and qualities, then Lord, you are so beautiful, so great and so attractive, that once our eyes fall steady on you, then they do not move away. This is when Aksharam is split into Aksha and Ram. Devotees say that, Lord, our eyes are played with by you, and they come steady on you. This is Aksharam. In both ways, you can see this. The Supreme Soul is Nirgun Nirakar, the formless God without qualities, because this visual universal form is an abstract, it is not for everybody, but at the same time, when Arjun is having a vision of the visual root, the universal form, this becomes Sagun Sakar, God with the form and qualities, because who is being seen? He who is with qualities. Therefore, you split Aksharam into both A, not, and Sharam, perishable, and also into Akshar, eyes, and Ram, to play with. Arjun then calls Shri Krishna Paramam, the Supreme. This is because only the Supreme Soul can do these two things simultaneously and nobody else. Who can remain both Nirgun Nirakar, the formless God without qualities, and Sagun Sakar, the formless God with the form and qualities? He who is Paramam, Supreme. And once again writing about it, people often ask me the question of whether God is Sagun Sakar with the form and qualities, or Nirgun Nirakar, formless and without qualities. This God is both. This is because if you count God as Sagun Sakar with form and qualities, but not Nirgun Nirakar, formless without qualities, then you have given God limits. This is because God is both all-powerful, and there are so many people who say that God is Nirgun Nirakar, formless without qualities, and cannot be Sagun Sakar with a form and qualities. This also gives limits to God. It is God's choice. If God wishes to remain Sagun Sakar with a form of qualities, then he can do so, but if God wishes to remain Nirgun Nirakar, formless and without qualities, then he can also do so. Who are we to say that God is like this? It is up to God to choose whether he wishes to remain Sagun Sakar, manifested, or Nirgun Nirakar, unmanifested. And that is his greatness and his all-powerfulness. If God decides, then he can remain Nirgun Nirakar, and if he decides, then he can also remain Sagun Sakar. On the way to America one time, There was a person sitting next to Guruji on the plane. Guruji used a particular example during his discourses in New Jersey. He asked Guruji, do you believe in God? Guruji said, yes, of course I believe in God. Then Guruji asked him, how about you? Do you believe in God? He said, no, I'm not a fanatic. Guruji told him that does believing in God make one a fanatic? No, it is not like that. He was a white European man. Guruji asked him, how can you say that you are not a fanatic? Does that mean that you do not believe in God? He told me, no, I just believe in one thing, and that is that there's Jesus Christ, Mother Mary, and nobody else. Guruji told him, no, there you are. You just said it there. You believe in Jesus and in Mother Mary, and then you say that there is nobody else. He told me, it does not make a difference. Guruji told him, you have just said a sentence that not only shows that you're religious, but also that you are fanatic. You are religious and you are fanatic. The first two things that you said prove that you're religious, and the third thing that you said proves that you're a fanatic. You believe in Jesus Christ, and that's a very good thing. You believe in Mother Mary, and that's a very good thing as well. But then, when you say that there is nobody else, then your fanaticism comes into it. Guruji slowly asked him if he had read the Bible, and he told him, I have not read the Bible. Guruji asked him if he had read the Quran, and he said he doesn't even know what the Quran is. He had not even heard the name of the Quran. Guruji had asked him if he had read the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita, and he told him no. Guruji told him, if you have not read anything, then how can you opine that there is nobody else? Guruji told him, I have studied the Vedas, I have read the Quran, I have also read the Bible, and I can see that my God is also your God. I do not have any hesitation in bowing down to Jesus, and I know that Jesus is great. What kind of statement are you making? He told me, no, Christ is my God, and there is no other God. Your God is different, and my God is different. Guruji told him, hold on. You're saying that there is nobody else. At least there is something in your mind that is making you say that there is only one God, and there is Christ. Why then are you saying that your God is Christ, and your God is different? When you say that your God, then does that not automatically show that there is more than one God? Because you're saying your God and my God. This means that you yourself are saying that there is one God, and then you yourself are saying that there are two gods, your God and my God. I'm not saying anything like this. He got stuck and started scratching his head. Guruji told him that you yourself are saying that your God is different and my God is different. I don't say that because God is always one. Guruji told him to read the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita where it says, Ekastam, there is one God. He is not different. The names can be different, but God cannot be different. And because He is not different, that is where His supreme power is. That is His supremacy. Guruji then went to New York and gave a discourse for 2 hours. What I need to say is that so many religions are spreading in the world where you see this. People say that there is only this and nothing else, therefore we will not look at anything else. Ekastam, there is one God. Arjun calls the Supreme Being not only Aksharam and Brahman, but also Veritavyam, meaning worth knowing about. If we take Paramam and Veritavyam as descriptive words, then together they become Paramam Veritavyam, the most supreme thing worth knowing about. There are a lot of things in the world worth knowing about. The indexes of stock markets are worth knowing about, for example. But Paramam Veritavyam is the greatest thing worth knowing about, and the supreme noble, that is the supreme soul. Arjun tells the supreme soul that he is Paramam Vidanam, the ultimate resting place of the universe. Look how much Arjun uses the word Parama, supreme. Arjun addresses and describes God only in the greatest way because Arjun can now only see the supreme. All Arjun can see is the supreme. That is why Arjun described the Lord as Paramam Veditavyam, the most supreme thing worth knowing about, and Paramam Nidanam, the ultimate resting place of the universe. In the 18th verse, we see that Arjun's ego has completely dissolved. In this verse, the word I cannot be seen. Read the verse. The word I cannot be seen, and when it comes, then it will only come last. Mato, me, I think. But the word me, me, I comes right at the end, and the word tvam, you, comes right at the beginning. Until now, Arjun has kept saying I first and God last. This whole order changed in the 18th verse. Now the Lord comes first with tvam, you being the first word in the verse, and me, I, comes last at the last word in the verse. Arjun's ego has gone. The ego should dissolve because the ego will never be destroyed. The ego will always stay. This is because ego means I. When I comes, then the ego begins, and it is impossible to remove the ego. Earlier, I spoke about discourses given by secretary people, and this is one of the things they say that you should remove your ego, and we say, yes. We hear our whole lives that we should remove the ego, but how can we remove the ego? Is it like an appendix that we can just remove it in operation and put it on one side saying your ego is gone? Or is it like your truth, that when it is moving, then you put it on one side, and you say my ego is gone, or your wisdom tooth? Is it like that? How can the ego be removed? The ego cannot be removed. The ego has to be subdued. You should dissolve the ego. If there is a piece of sugar candy in a glass of water, then the sweetness of the sugar candy does not come in the water, and when one goes to drink the sugar candy and it gets stuck in the person's throat, then the person dies. But instead of that, if you keep twirling the sugar candy in the water and make the entire sugar candy dissolved, then the sugar candy cannot be seen yet. It is there, and you can experience its sweetness. In the same way, this juice of life that we have has a piece of the ego fallen in it, and it keeps knocking, saying, me, me, me. It keeps knocking, and we cannot drink it because the sweetness does not come out of it. If a piece of sugar candy is in a glass of water and you drink it, then will the sweetness come? No, it will not come, and it scratches us. It scratches us over and over again. That is what the ego does. We should dissolve the ego away. And dissolving the ego is the very name of devotion, bhakti. When the ego dissolves away, then one can experience its sweetness. It does not last after that. Then this is what happened to Arjuna here. His ego is completely small now. Only the Supreme Soul remains. Arjuna tells the Supreme Soul that he is the ultimate resting place of the world. This means that the world has been kept in the Supreme Soul, and that is why the world is very safe. In the 90s, many people asked Guruji whether the destruction of the world was going to come in the year 2000. He told them that nothing like that is going to happen, and that they should sleep peacefully when they go home. Guruji does not know where all these kinds of strange predictions come from. They say that the destruction of the world will come about in year 2000, and this and that will happen. They say that only those in some cults and in some sects will be saved, and that everybody else will be finished. All these things are false talks. No scripture supports what they say. The world cannot be destroyed because the Supreme Soul is the ultimate resting place of the world. The world has been kept in a very great place and has been kept properly. That is why Arjuna calls the Supreme Soul the ultimate resting place of the world. Arjuna then calls the Supreme Soul Avyaya, undying. Look at this. The world has been kept in the Supreme Soul, and the Supreme Soul is called undying because the Lord never dies. If there was a nice and expensive piece of jewelry that was kept in a safe deposit vault at the bank, and the walls of the vault are made of steel so that nobody can break them and nothing can happen, then the piece of jewelry is completely safe. The world has been kept in the Supreme Soul, and the Supreme Soul himself is undying and indestructible. The Supreme Soul can never die and can never be destroyed. The world is very safe in the hands of the Supreme Soul. Arjuna then calls the Supreme Soul Shashvat Dharma Gopta, the guardian of eternal Sanatan Vedic Dharma, the eternal law. This name is worth understanding a lot. Shashvat means Sanatan, eternal, and that which has been running forever. Not only does it mean that which has been running forever, but it also means that which is always going to remain. This is called Shashvat and Sanatan, eternal, and that is what Vedic Dharma is. And the Supreme Soul is the guardian and protector of the Shashvat Dharma, the eternal Vedic Sanatan Dharma. This Sanatan Dharma has been running for an infinite amount of time and will keep running for an infinite amount of time. This is Shashvat Dharma, the eternal Dharma, eternal law. Guruji once went to the holy town of Hardwar and got to meet a great saint all of a sudden. He had gone there for work, and the great saint himself was coming out. The person who was with Guruji asked the great saint where he was going, and he said that a very great saint who has seen God has come here and we're going to get a vision of him. Guruji said that we should also go, because if a great saint himself is going there, then we should go as well. They went there, and if this person passes in front of you, then you won't even know that he has seen God. Guruji felt he was a realized soul. His nature was as if he had no wisdom, and he was Punjabi by his clothes and his body. They sat next to him for 30 minutes to 45 minutes. He would speak so slowly, and he would speak in Punjabi, so they would not understand it. The person next to him would translate a bit for them. He asked Guruji some things, and Guruji asked him some things. Then Guruji realized that he served cows a lot. He had no place for wrestling with cows or anything like that, but whenever it has been needed, for example, when he's been given a donation, then he has protected 50,000 or 100,000 cows at one time. This is what he's been doing. He would get wealth from somewhere, and he himself would not even know where it came from. That is what he was like. He was Punjabi, and therefore he was dressed in such a way that he would wear his trousers made of cloth and a long shirt made of cloth. When Guruji went to meet him, then he had no trousers and only had a long shirt with open legs. He had tied a simple piece of cloth on his head like a turban. He was sitting there. Guruji asked him a question. He told him that he gives discourses in various places in India, and many times internationally renowned politicians would come and meet him, and they would tell him to keep doing discourses about cows and the protection of cows. Guruji told him that even he speaks about cows, and often when stories of service to cows would come up, because when Shri Krishna is being spoken about, then the topic of cows would always come up. Guruji told him that the protection of cows should take place. Guruji asked the great saint that he logically explains this to people, or explains it in another way, and what does he think about this and the protection of cows? He said only one thing, that who am I to protect the mother cow? He was so humble, and Guruji often thinks that we have so much air in our minds that I will protect cows, and I will do this, I will do that. But he said this with so much humility. The same person who will protect 50,000 or 100,000 of cows will say, who am I to protect the mother cow? The mother cow is a power, and that power protects itself through itself. The lineage of cows will never go away. Then he told Guruji that by this I do not mean that we should not make efforts, because people sometimes sit there and think that cows are mothers and therefore they would look after themselves. It is not like that. But at the time of making efforts, we should not feel that I am protecting cows or I am doing something. The ego should not come in the middle. Guruji got a lot of bliss because he has so much humility. He just said, who am I to protect the mother cow? The mother cow is a power. In the same way, at the time of protecting Dharma, the thought that should come in our minds is that who am I to protect Dharma? Dharma is a power, and the Shashwat Dharma or Sanatan Dharma, meaning eternal law, has been running for an endless time and will keep running for an endless time. No matter what time comes, Dharma can never be destroyed. And maybe then, when maybe a time will come when Dharma is wearing, the Supreme Soul himself always takes an incarnation and comes back and stands. Shri Krishna said in the 7th and 8th verses of the 4th chapter of Gita that Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadat manushrajiham parityana sadsadunam vinasya cha dushkritam dharmasya shastapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever there is a decline of righteousness and rise of unrighteousness, O Bharat Arjun, then I send forth great incarnate myself for the protection of the good, for the destruction of the wicked, for the establishment of dharma, of righteousness. I come into being from age to age. The Lord himself comes. Our lives are limited to 70 or 80 or 90 years, and the history of the world is hundreds and thousands of years. Dharma has lasted, but how has it lasted? There have been numerous Ravans, numerous Kamsas, numerous Shishupals, and numerous tyrants who have come and gone, but Dharma has always remained. Kamsa struggled to try to kill Shri Krishna, and Kamsa himself got destroyed. Shri Krishna did not get destroyed. And if Kamsa himself is still remembered, then it's because of Shri Krishna that it's still remembered. Today, why do we remember Kamsa? Because Shri Krishna killed him. If Shri Krishna had not killed him, then nobody will remember Kamsa. Numerous Shishupals have come who have criticized God and who have criticized the Supreme Soul, but they are not remembered. The Supreme Soul is always remembered. That is why Arjuna describes the Supreme Soul as Shashwat Dharmagopta, the guardian of the eternal law. One should have this faith, and one should have this faith through humility, that Dharma itself is a power, and the Supreme Soul himself is protecting it. It is your fortune, and as a result of the good deeds in the past, that you have become an instrument of the Supreme Soul in protecting Dharma. And by making these efforts, you are making yourself successful. You are not changing the world, you are making yourself successful. When we make our offerings to the holy river Gangaji, then we take water from the Gangaji herself to give the Gangaji water. We do not bring it from somewhere outside. If we are bringing it from outside, then what water can be as pure as a Gangaji? Therefore, there is no meaning in bringing water from somewhere outside. We take water from the streams of the Gangaji herself and offer it to Gangaji. In the same way, we make divine offerings to the endless stream of Dharma that is running in the world and give it back to Dharma. If this comes, then egotism will go away. The 18th verse is important in this meaning. Arjuna's ego has gone away. That is why Arjuna keeps saying, Tvam, you, Tvam, you, Tvam, you. Arjuna is saying, Lord, you, and there is no longer any I. Arjuna then addresses the Supreme Soul as Sanataswam, the Primal Person. Arjuna therefore calls the Supreme Soul eternal, endless, and primal. Verse 19. Anat